Plus One Forward, the podcast powered by the Apocalypse, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games using or inspired by the Apocalypse engine. I'm your MC, Rich, and I'm joined by my guest, Erika Chappell of Newstand Press. Hi, Erika. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Rob Abrazato hooked us up here, and I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Indeed.
Yeah, it was neat to hear about this podcast, and I've been sort of binging the archive. So
Awesome. I have to kick it off. How long have you been playing Powered by the Apocalypse games, and what was your gateway?
I was vaguely aware of Vincent Baker forever. When I started playing role-playing games when I was like 13 years old, 2003, thereabouts. Not long after that, because of the group I was in, we didn't play Dungeons & Dragons. We played all sorts of weird other stuff. Our Catholic school wouldn't let us play D&D. So my gateway to role-playing was like Palladium games and stuff. And through this weird experimental play whatever we could, we found Kill Puppies for Satan. So
Nice.
I was aware of Vincent Baker's work for a very long time. So when Apocalypse World came out, I was like, oh, cool. A new game by Vincent Baker. Holy shit, this will be amazing. And I was kind of dropping out of role-playing a little bit then, and I didn't understand Apocalypse World when I first read it. It was arcane and mysterious to me in the way that a lot of his games were, because I wasn't really cognizant of his cadence yet, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get Apocalypse World for years and years until I read Monster Hearts. And then I went, oh, this is beautiful and brilliant and the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And then the first Apocalypse World game that I actually did play was Dungeon World at a convention, and that actually almost burnt me out of the system a little bit. I was like, ooh, this isn't great. Like, maybe I was wrong. And then I got to play Monster Hearts and went, oh, no, this is real. And then I played Night Witches, and finally I got to play an Apocalypse World proper game. And now I'm just playing all of them and writing like 4, you know.
Wow, it sounds like you bounced around on the highs and lows there. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, it's a weird system that when you go from like, I was deep into like Dark Heresy and a lot of like the worst of the D10 90s RPGs. When I came across Apocalypse World, I didn't really know what it was doing at first until I saw it in action. Like, I saw it through some actual play podcasts, specifically You Don't Meet It in N, which has an incredible Monster Hearts playthrough, as well as a very good Apocalypse World campaign. Go check them out. I did their logo, their recent logo.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Yeah. They're a really good group, and they really like sort of made me understand the system better. And then once I started playing it and got to play Monster Hearts and got to play like these really interesting systems that came out of it, and the way of thinking that the system brings about, like, I really understood that, and it was like revealed to me, and now I can't write RPGs the same way.
All right, well, you know what? Let's jump on in here and read a Sitch. Okay, Eric?
Yeah, sure.
Read a Sitch.
So we were talking a little bit before about how I'm running an Apocalypse World campaign and how that's been an adventure.
That's right. Yeah, you ran an Apocalypse World game, and then that was early on in your emceeing PBTA games, and then kind of came back to it, right?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I've run Powered by the Apocalypse games before, but I hadn't run Apocalypse World. I've only ever played it as a one-shot. So it was only about like a little less than a year ago where I was like, we're going to run Apocalypse World. Like, we're going to run the original one. And what was weird was that I kind of had gotten into Apocalypse World through a lot of these other Apocalypse World powered games. And there's like a divide in Apocalypse World games between these really minimalist systems like Night Witches and Monster Hearts that have like 4 moves and very simplistic and straightforward ways of presenting the mechanics, you know, and rely on an emerging gameplay from there. And Apocalypse World itself, and a couple of the games that are like it, like Mashed, are actually mechanically fairly dense for what their reputation is. Like, there's like a lot of basic moves in Apocalypse World.
Now, just so I'm clear, are we talking about first edition or second edition?
This is second edition, but I mean,
okay.
Generally
speaking, I totally
like,
agree with you on second edition.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Apocalypse World, but it also, the thing that they don't tell you is that, or they do tell you, and if you're dumb and don't read it properly, you don't realize you don't need to run it like a traditional RPG. The GM doesn't have to come up with a quest. And I didn't know that, so I came up with a quest, and I tried to make the system run like an older role-playing game, or like some other Powered by the Apocalypse games where it's important to throw antagonists at the players instead of letting the players sort of find antagonists around them and find antagonizing situations. So we ran this quest, and the need to create baddies and to have a new place every week and stuff like that kind of broke the game a little bit. And we realized as we were running it, like, this isn't probably how this is supposed to go. So we took the world that we had built for it, this it's not a post-apocalypse, it's a sort of space Australia situation, like a penal colony.
Neat.
Built on the ruins of a giant alien metropolis, where, like, the rooms in the buildings are like caverns because these creatures were so large.
Ooh.
And so, like, the problem that they have isn't, like, you know, starvation or even, like, dehydration or anything like the traditional deserty apocalypse situations. It's warmth, mostly. Like, it's raining all the time, so how are you going to get fuel to stay warm? Where are you going to sleep? Like, how are you not going to get swept away in the mud? So we did a kind of a reboot of it a couple of weeks later, like, all right, you know, let's play some new characters. We'll try this over again. We'll see what we do. We took the setting 10 years forward.
Okay.
One of the players' old characters became the new hardholder, and we turned their subtle politicking into this, like, their old hardhold went from, you know, the traditional apocalypse world, like a couple hundred people in a compound, to sort of a sprawling post-apocalyptic city.
Interesting.
Where we could do all sorts of weird things, like the old enforcer, the gunlugger before was just like a relatively young guy enforcing the law, and now he's semi-retired, and he lives out in the post-apocalyptic suburbs. Like, this kind of idea coming from that. Like, literally, they had to deal with a homeowners association that was one part 50s suburb stereotypes and one part Raiders of the Mad Max variety. It was very strange, but it worked very well. And that's sort of the brilliance of the Apocalypse World thing, is, like, the trappings don't matter. It's just very good at apocalypses and scarcity and social pressures that put people towards violence. It's a game about, Vincent Baker talked about it on Twitter recently, it's a game about crime and violence and those sorts of social structures around those things, not about the apocalypse. That's just the trapping.
I'm curious, though, Erika, from the first time that you ran it to the second time, you said that when you first ran it, you thought there needed to be a quest, and so that was part of the way that you were running. Other than kicking it forward 10 years and resetting a few things, growing the setting and the hardhold, were there any mechanics changes? Were there any things that custom moves that you created to more re-envision this new world? Or, well, like you said, Apocalypse World 2nd Edition already has a ton of moves, so maybe not that. But what did you do differently? What made it work better for your group the second time around?
I asked the players to reevaluate which playbooks they want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so we shifted from a party that had a faceless, a gunlugger, a battle babe, to somebody that had, like, that was a little bit more, like, we have the news, we have an angel, like, we have characters who have reason to have roots. Before our party was a little bit more independent. They could just sort of be a, you know, moving mass of violence that could get whatever they wanted wherever they went. So that's a big change. And the other part is that I think this is, like, less a mechanical change, but more something that worked really well, is because everybody's old characters became part of the background, they had an instant reason to be invested, which I think really helped.
Yeah.
And the final part is that I started using the gigs and the barter, because we were questing before, so there wasn't time skips between sessions. It was literally just pick up, like, it's a day later or it's 6 hours later. But now it's like, no, they're, you know, we're going on, so, like, you know, everybody has to pay barter, everybody has to work gigs, everybody has to find a reason to be. And that's something that I didn't realize it before, but I think that might be the biggest thing in Apocalypse World. The most important thing that I don't think enough Powered by the Apocalypse games really grasp onto is that one of the core tenets of the game is that your characters have to find a reason to be who they are in the dynamics of the setting that you've created, because they need to eat. So I've been stealing that for games both Powered by the Apocalypse and not since then, because it's so good.
That is really good. Very cool. Anything else about this switch over and things you've learned about Apocalypse World this second time around?
Not really. Like, it's been a really fun adventure, and it's just been, like, really wacky. Like, I run really improv. Like, I write barely comprehensible notes on my threat map and just kind of go for it. And so wacky stuff has been happening all over the place, and it's been really cool to roll with it. The other thing that I've been doing, actually, is I've been very project-oriented with characters, because there's scientists, and there's the news who wants to set up a television station in their city. And, like, even the gunlugger wants to get his car back from the first campaign, because in the first campaign I said, everybody take a car so we can go places. By taking that away from them, it's slowed the party down a little bit, but we have all these old cars in the background that have become almost legendary vehicles now. So the gunlugger's police cruiser is up in blocks in his yard, and he's been trying to get it working session after session, like paying money into it to try to get it to work. But it's great because his character, he's embraced the sort of, his gunlugger is in the middle of like a midlife crisis almost, like not really sure what to do in this society that no longer needs just pure violence all the time. So he's taken up gardening and like trying to find something to do with his life. And like, he's like the police chief basically now. It's really good.
That is really cool. All right. Well, you mentioned writing a few games of your own, so why don't we go open our brain up to this game Blackout, okay?
Open your brain.
I'm writing like 4 or 5 of these Powered by the Apocalypse games at the moment, but Blackout is one that came together really quickly because I write a monthly game on my Patreon. I missed last month because I'm about to put out a 100-page A4 free game.
Wow.
on Patreon, so, well, not a free expansion, whatever. But, so Blackout was, it came together in 3 weeks. I wrote an initial draft of it, like 6 months beforehand, when I was in the UK, and then I finished it, art, writing, playtesting, all of it in 3 weeks. I didn't really sleep during that time. But it was like I wanted to get something out. I had to do something with this system. I wanted to do something simple and minimalist and that tackled a niche. And so the niche of Blackout is that it's a game about civil defense. You play female civil defense workers during the Blitz in World War II, protecting London against the bombs, which is to say, fishing people out of the rubble and trying to put out fires and stuff. It's an interesting game, I think, because it hasn't got an antagonist. It is just the players versus the world and the circumstances around them and trying to survive a night and what that means.
So this takes place during the bombings and then you do the aftermath, so it kind of has a day-night cycle, is that right?
So it's designed explicitly for one-shots. Okay. So it opens in the evening as night falls and the sirens wail and you sort of step out of the shelters, and it ends when it ends. The rules even say, like, the game ends when the session does. That's the all clear. You're never really sure when that's going to be in real time because, you know, sometimes the bombers keep going until day breaks and sometimes they fly over at 10 and they're done. So the game is designed to sort of, the longer it goes, the more desperate things get. It's a game that spirals out of control that way, but it is designed just to do one night, and that one night will represent a microcosm of your characters' lives and of the war effort.
Interesting. So you talked about as time goes on, things get more difficult. So that leads me to ask, what mechanics are different in this game versus a regular Apocalypse world? Like, how do you represent that things getting more difficult in this game?
The core sort of weird thing that works really well with the way that Apocalypse World does actions and has moves and stuff like that is every time you make one of the basic moves, your character takes exhaustion. And also some of your character moves make you take exhaustion. Exhaustion fills up a track that's 5 deep, and when you hit 5, your character breaks down. And you roll to find out what that means for your character. You make a roll, and you always check off a break on your character's identity sheet. And the break represents some way in which your character is worse off now, some way that they're struggling, which might mean, like, it means different things for different characters, but it usually means subtracting one of your statistics. But it can also mean, like, there's a character who has to learn how to do all the actions. This is their first night out. They don't do physical labor much. They're sort of the high-class character. So they have to screw up all the actions in order to get good at them. But once they're good at them, they can teach it to others. And they can throw themselves in much more readily than a lot of other characters can. But one of their breaks that they might have to take is you forget it all. in your panic, you are back to the person you were at the start of the night. So, like, that's the kind of things that are inflicted. And the other part is that the game has a countdown clock that represents the whole city. And every time anybody misses a move, you roll on the clock. If you roll above the clock, you're okay. The clock just advances by 1. If you roll below it, another bomb falls somewhere. So that's where things can get really out of control, as like you're in the middle of something goes, something has just gone wrong in the building you're in because somebody missed a roll. And the fact that it went wrong here means that your attention now has to be split in some way because something else just blew up. Something else was a problem. And maybe it's time to move on.
Wow. That's fascinating. So what is your favorite move in Blackout, a game of civil defense, and why?
I've pondered on this for a really long time, and I'm honestly not sure, but I kind of like the basic move of it in terms of tone setting. The most basic move in the game, sort of the act under fire of this game, is called Press On. Okay. And it is when you are given a choice between backing out or going forward, when you decide to press on, you roll it. And it's, it has many of the same sort of ideas as like an act under fire or a defy danger or one of those other sort of, the move you fall back on, in that the consequences will become prepped or strike you. You have to choose between them. Most of the time I like it when a move makes you choose consequences. Like I don't... Oh,
yeah, me too.
I'm not a big fan of like, for example, like act under fire's very sort of vague wording of like offering a hard choice or whatever. Like I want the move itself to ask the players, how do you want to get screwed here? Because you're going to have to pick one. And that's what Press On does. It asks you, what penalty or problem are you going to have to face and overcome in order just to move forward a little bit? And because the game is all about pressing on into circumstances that other people flee and take shelter from, I think that it sets the tone very nicely.
Sounds like it. That's interesting. I have to say, Erika, you have gotten me pretty excited about this. Could we possibly act under fire? Maybe play a little bit of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is time to act under fire.
This is Act Under Fire. We're going to be playing a little bit of Blackout, a game of civil defense. I will be playing my titular character this time, because it is all women. This will be Plussina. And I'm apologize, but it's in Britain, so I'm going to do a slightly bad British accent.
Absolutely. That's required by the rules.
All right. There we go. So I will be playing Plussina. Erika, away we go.
So Plussina is a member of the rescue services. It's your job to crawl into buildings and get people out of them when terrible things happen. And the terrible thing that has unfolded before you right now is that a building has suffered immensely under the effects of the German bombs. A high explosive bomb has blown the roof off of the building, and then following it, several incendiary bombs have fallen inside. Fire rages and pours from the windows, and you are standing in front of the door. What do you do?
There's already fire going on.
You can see the sparks from the incendiary bombs going off, and one of the rooms has caught entirely. But if you move fast enough, you might be able to prevent the others.
Oh, very well. Then I'm going to go in. Is there a front door or perhaps a side door that I can go into?
Absolutely. You can move right into the front door, but as you touch the doorknob, you find it hot. There's probably fire on the other side. You might be able to find another way in if you size up the situation.
Well, then I will do that very thing.
Cool. So roll me 2d6 and add +wise, which would be +1.
All right. Well, being Plussina, I will do that. And so, as I take a look, I have rolled a 10. That's an 11.
Excellent. So you hold 4, and you can spend those holds to ask me questions, such as, how can I get in there? What's going to give way first? Who is in the greatest danger? Where is blank? And what am I missing?
All right. As I tie a scarf around my mouth, the first thing is, what other way can I use to get in there?
You can go around the side where there are large windows that have been blown out by the blast that you can easily climb through.
Oh, yes. All right. And I believe there's a question about who is in the most danger?
Well, as you make your way to the window to the side, you can see that there are the people on the lower floor are evacuating quickly and quietly and safely. But there are people on the upper floors who are cut off. The stairways have collapsed, and they are trapped inside with the incendiary bombs.
Trapped inside, and no stairs. What am I missing?
There's a fire escape around the back, but as you peer around, you see that it hasn't been deployed, so you can't go up it. And it might be that the people inside are trapped or scared and don't know or can't get to the fire escape. The best way to get them out would probably be that.
All right. What do I need to do to, as I head around to the fire escape? Is that opposite from where the windows are that have broken?
It's just around the corner. So front door, the side of the house where you can get in easily, the fire escape around the back.
Very well. All right. What do I need to do to get the fire escape to deploy? I'd like to check that out first.
You'll have to get upstairs to do it. You'll have to deploy it from the top.
Very well.
Welcome to the 1940s. Not great standards on these things.
Well, I'm sure I'll write a very strongly worded letter after this is all complete, and I'm going to go ahead and try to climb in the window.
All right, so you climb into the window, no problem. You find yourself in the kitchen of the building. Everything has fallen down, the pots and pans lying around the floor. There doesn't seem to be anybody here, but there's smoke pouring in from the front room, the atrium, as it were. You can move quite easily through to the rest of the house. You glance into the hallway and you see the stairway in its collapsed form. And you see the reason that it has collapsed and the reason that it is a problem is because the stairway is on fire. An incendiary bomb has slid down it and is now lying at the base. The hardwood floor is rapidly peeling, cracking, and burning under it due to the heat of the thermite and magnesium.
Oh, God.
What do you do?
Are there any other stairways up? Any other ways that I could get up?
You might be able to move directly into one of the adjoining buildings through the blown out walls in order to get up. And you might have a little bit of difficulty, but you can probably get to the other floor. You might also be able to put out the fire here through whatever method that you can devise.
Oh.
You have a variety of tools as a servant of the rescue agency. You have a shovel, you have a bucket full of sand, you have a pry bar, rope. You have a variety of tools. Anything you think might be relevant, you have.
Is there any way that I could perhaps force the bomb further down the stairs and then move past it?
You could
Yes, go ahead.
You could do that with the handle of your shovel, but it would require getting dangerously close to a bomb that, just by proximity, can light cloth and flesh alight.
That seems like a bad idea. Yes, I'll go to the adjacent building and try to work my way up and then come back across.
So as you move your way to the building next door, which had taken an even larger blow from the bomb than this one, it is basically little more than a skeleton at this point, which is why you started your rescue efforts here. And you start climbing up towards between the wrecked walls. And I would like you to press on in order to cross between the two buildings.
All right.
So roll plus nerve.
I'll roll plus nerve. Here we go. You won't believe this. I did give you a link. Yes, that's right. That's a 12.
All right, cool. So you just do it. There's no consequences for pressing on and doing it properly. So you are at 2 exhaustion at this point, though. When you hit 5, consequences will occur. So you crawl easily between the two structures and you make your way to the stairs, or what's left of them. Fortunately, these are stone stairs, and you climb up to the second floor and back through into the building. And at this point, you see the circumstance that has prevented people from getting to the fire escape. The wall between the fire escape, the back wall with the fire escape, and the room that people are trapped in, about half a dozen people, is completely ablaze. Debris has fallen across the door and nobody is able to get out. What do you do?
All right, so I have a shovel, I have some sand. What other equipment do I have?
You'd be working with a team. So, like, you could have a stirrup pump if you wanted. You could have, like, a fire axe. You have a pry bar, for sure.
Oh, a fire axe.
Kind of thing.
Yes. Perhaps if we can take the piece of this, a section of this wall down. So I'll try to do that, if I can.
Excellent. So, just press on again. Let's see what happens.
All right. Let me clear out the dice here.
This is an excellent website. I've got to use it.
Yes, that is by Shane, a member of the Gauntlet community. Roll for your party is my favorite dice roller. That is an 8 with my +1 as Plussina. I have 9.
All right, so I would like you to choose one. You are injured. the home office inflicts harm or exhaustion is established, the situation around you gets worse very fast, or someone else is endangered.
I think someone else is already in danger, so I'd like to take an injury.
Cool. So you move to the wall and you take your axe to the drywall and the crumbling old wood, and you quickly start pressing through the wall, but you take some injury, so 1 injury of 3, as, burning pieces of wallpaper and wood come down on top of you, and you have to sort of push your way out of it. But you have created a hole that will let people through. You pause to sort of let everyone know that they're on the way out, but they're pressed against the wall, and they look terrified of moving through this gap that you've just sort of hastily carved. What do you do?
I'd like to use some of this sand and see if I can throw it about the hole and perhaps put down a bit of the flame, calling out to them. Everyone, we can go to the fire escape, but you need to move quickly. I'll make this hole a bit safer, but you need to trust me.
All right, cool. So I'm actually going to have you do a move from the fire guard here, which is Douse Blaze.
Okay.
And then we'll have you take charge of the group.
All right, here we go to Dousing the Blaze. That is barely a make. The 7. Oh, very, very dangerous.
All right, choose one. Put yourself in direct danger by doing this, or get more help.
I think I'm going to need to get more help.
All right, so that will actually work really well. So your initial calls of "I'll make this safer" quickly turn into "I need some help here." So roll to take charge, and we'll see if the civilians pay attention. Or jump 2.
Oh my, that is an 11, so I hope so.
Absolutely, yes. Everyone falls in line, so everyone quickly joins you. They take up the tools that you leave for them, and they start clearing away the burning debris, and they, one by one, make their way out. As the room behind begins to collapse, you make your way onto the fire escape and down and out. You and the people make it out, and you for saving a group of people, you have raised the site state, which is the way we track the condition of the building, by 1. So now you might have to move on to another situation. Another bomb has fallen somewhere. Something else is getting worse. So when you move on, when you think you're done, or you've done what you can, roll plus the state of the site, which we'll say is +1.
Oh, all right. All right, let's see how this goes. That's a 9 + 1 is a 10.
You have rolled amazing today. You get 2 victories. You've salvaged the best you can out of this building. And the way that you would use victories is at the end, you take it with your identity, and we have an epilogue of sorts between all the characters where we talk about what happens to them after the war. So the victories allow you to choose things from your identity to talk about the ways that your life has been changed by the war. And it's a really good way to put this game into a historical context and talk about the changing roles of women in Britain due to the Second World War.
That is fascinating. Wow, Erika. This was really cool. Thank you so much for teaching me about Blackout, a game of civil defense. This was really cool, Erika.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
+1 Forward is a production of the Gauntlet community, Richard Rogers and Rach Shelkey. You can find us at gauntlet-rpg.com or follow us on Twitter at +1FWD. If you would like to support our show, visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/gauntlet. The games mentioned on this show use the Apocalypse engine, which is a creation of Vincent and Magay Baker. The music for +1 Forward is from the Savage Aural Hotbed CD Gomi Daiko. The songs used are Gomi Daiko, Metal Version, and Drowning Attitude. You can find more amazing tunes by Savage Aural Hotbed on their website, www.savageauralhotbed.com.